The Pixel 6 is the most intriguing phone that Google has made in years. Not only is it a return to premium design with fun colors and up to 120Hz screens, it's also powered by the company's first mobile processor, Tensor. With it, the company is promising serious upgrades in AI performance and photography, including better voice recognition and assistant features. Google also finally upgraded the Pixel's camera hardware instead of just relying on its processing smarts. That's not to say it's overlooked software this year. The Pixel 6 is stuffed to the brim with special photography modes. The best thing about the Pixel 6 series though is the surprisingly low starting price, and that makes the very few drawbacks easier to forgive. I'm torn over the Pixel 6's design. Compared to the last few generations, this year's phones are an arresting change of pace. The two-tone palette is pretty, especially on the smaller Pixel 6, which also has the more fun colors. The Pro has pleasantly curved, shiny edges, while the Pixel 6 has a flat screen and a matte finish on its sides. The Pro in particular really feels like the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. Google's horizontal camera bar here is polarizing. I don't mind it, but I know many people think it's hideous. In its defense, it not only houses larger sensors, but it also makes for a more symmetrical design than the corner camera bumps on every other flagship. And as a bonus, it doesn't wobble when resting on a tabletop, although the phones do tend to slip off surfaces when placed face down. Aesthetics and style are all subjective, but no one can argue with hard numbers. At 207 grams or 7.3 ounces, the Pixel 6 is heavier than the Galaxy S21 and the iPhone 13, although not by much. The Pixel does have a larger 6.4-inch screen though. Meanwhile, the Pixel 6 Pro weighs 210 grams, which is much lighter than the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the Galaxy S21 Ultra. Both the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro have lovely OLED screens. The standard model has a 6.4-inch 1080p panel that runs at 90Hz, while the Pro uses a 6.7-inch display that goes between 10Hz and 120Hz depending on what you're doing. Most flagship phones have adopted OLED by now, and in general, they offer excellent image quality. The new frontier for displays is refresh rate, and the Pixel 6 Pro's 120Hz screen is as buttery as the iPhone 13 Pro and Galaxy S20 Ultras. The Pixel 6's 90Hz refresh rate does make it feel a little slower, but you won't notice the difference unless your eyes have been spoiled by 120Hz screens. If you're upgrading from an older phone, the 90Hz panel will feel like an obvious improvement. Plus, this thing costs just $600, so no gripes here, especially since the iPhone 13 is $200 more and runs at 60Hz. I'm also not going to complain much about the Pixel 6's speakers, which are decent. Vocals were clear in Steve Aoki and Jolien Tsai's Equal in the Darkness, although the mix could sound messy at times and lacked bass. Under the Pixel 6's display is a fingerprint sensor, and unfortunately it's slow and finicky, especially when compared to in-screen readers on recent Galaxy and OnePlus devices. You also can't log in with your thumb when the screen is off, meaning unlocking your phone is now a two-step process. Wake the screen, then scan your print. Google could stand to take notes from Samsung here. Place your finger on the screen of an S21 and you almost immediately see your homepage. What defines the Pixel 6 experience is in its software, an area where Google has always excelled. With Android 12's new Material UUI, the Pixel 6s feel as pretty inside as they do outside. The most obvious flourish is its ability to theme the entire interface around a color palette it extracts from your wallpaper. We've discussed this many times in our previous coverage of the Android 12 beta, so I won't go on and on about it here, but it makes the OS feel more cohesive. Android 12 offers many new features that we've already tested, like updated widgets and camera and mic privacy toggles, but the company has some updates that are exclusive to Pixels as well. The most impactful of these are the upgraded speech recognition algorithms. Transcriptions are more accurate, translations are integrated in more parts of the OS, and the keyboard is easier to use hands-free. As someone who hates typing on a phone, I love the new voice keyboard. It's better at understanding my rambling monologues and inserting punctuation. Now, transcribed text looks more natural rather than being a long block of words. The system will even retroactively add punctuation to previous sentences while you're speaking. That said, Assistant still isn't perfect and often adds periods where they don't belong. And maybe this is more an indictment of the way I speak, but Google seems to think everything I say is a question. What makes hands-free typing even easier is the ability to say things like send, clear, delete, and undo. I especially love that you can just say, "Hey Google, type," to trigger the speech keyboard, so there's no need to even touch the screen to reply to your friends. The Pixel 6 also helpfully suggests commands, and you can also tap the question mark symbol above the keyboard to get a list of supported phrases. You can use these to jump to the next field in the form, add a friend as a CC, or set a subject for emails. Plus, you can add emoji by saying smiley face emoji or peach emoji. The new keyboard also makes it easier to fix mistakes. You can't do this hands-free unless you want to clear everything and start over. But at least you don't have to exit voice typing mode and then select a typo and then tap the speech button to start dictating again. The mic will remain on so you can repeat something with more careful enunciation, and you can use commands like delete to get rid of stray words. The improvements to voice commands are especially important to those with physical and motor disabilities, and this might make it easier to communicate if you have limited mobility. Google is introducing new wait time and direct my call tools that tell you how long you'll have to hold to talk to a customer service representative and converts voice-based menus into on-screen options. The Pixel 6 accurately turned DoorDash's menu into tappable buttons, although it only works in English. The company has also integrated its translation engine into more parts of the Pixel 6, like Live Transcribe and the keyboard, which makes things more convenient. You no longer have to use the app or search engine to translate what you need before copying and pasting it into a message. When I opened a conversation with our video producer Brian in Android Messages, the phone detected that he had written in German and asked if I wanted it to translate. As I typed out my reply, a separate text field appeared above the keyboard, with my words in English being translated into Deutsch. This also worked with the new voice typing, although sometimes it reverted to the old speech keyboard. Another area where translation is baked in is live captions, which provides subtitles for anything playing through your phone's speakers. In general, Google's interpretations still aren't very accurate though, and sentences come off stilted. In interpreter mode, Brian and I had a conversation in Chinese and Korean and simply couldn't make sense of what the other was saying unless we set one of the languages to English. But it's not like any other translation software is better. The phone's Tensor chip handles all these things impressively quickly, and since it's all done on device, you can use the features without an internet connection. Lens in particular was very fast at identifying Korean characters on a book and correctly capitalizing the author's names. There are a lot of little software updates throughout Android 12 that I just don't have the time to go into here, but I'll quickly shout out some new security features like the anti-malware and phishing tool and the new security hub that helps you identify what apps are using your personal data the most. Google software has helped it make the most of the outdated cameras on its older Pixels. But this time around, the company endowed its flagships with much better hardware. The Pixel 6 has a 50 megapixel main sensor that uses pixel binning to achieve a resolution closer to 12 megapixels, and they're bigger and let in more light. Accompanying this is a 12 megapixel wide-angle camera with a 114-degree field of view, and the Pro adds a 48 megapixel telephoto lens to the mix, and that goes up to 4 times optical zoom. It also has a wide 11.1 megapixel selfie camera that shoots in 4K, while the Pixel 6 has an 8 megapixel sensor that tops out at 1080p. These sensors aren't just sharper, they're also bigger with larger pixels, which makes for brighter, cleaner photos. Combined with Google's excellent processing algorithms, the Pixel 6 takes stunning pictures that are crisp and colorful. In almost every situation, the Pixel 6 Pro's photos were basically on par with the iPhone 13 Pro, and the comparison here boils down to personal preference. They both produced crisp, colorful pictures. Apple tends to deliver more saturated images with a greener, more yellow cast, while Google has a more neutral approach. The iPhone struggles with fringing when shooting anything against a light source, but it also renders rosier skin tones compared to the Pixel, which can wash my subjects out in low light. That's disappointing, by the way, given the Pixel 6 also features Google's real tone processing. It's part of the company's image equity program, which is built on research and feedback from photographers and people of color to better expose for different skin tones. In addition to baking real tone into its algorithms, Google also introduced a slew of special camera features, including magic eraser, motion mode, face unblur, and speech enhancement for selfie videos. Most of these are hit or miss, except face unblur, which uses images from both the wide and main cameras to stitch together photos with crisp faces every time. I wasn't expecting to be wowed, but face unblur worked well, and it worked all the time. I fired the camera in rapid succession while Brian stood in front of me and vigorously shook his head from side to side. Every single shot had his face in perfect focus. The rest of the updates, like speech enhancement, magic eraser, long exposure, and action pan in motion mode, only work in the right circumstances. Magic eraser doesn't always identify photo bombers or perfectly remove them, but in some cases, like this photo of a stream, it accurately highlighted two people on the bank and seamlessly replaced them with foliage. I'm also a fan of action pan and long exposure, which add a motion blur effect to fast-moving subjects and let you capture light trails. They're both easy to use, and when they work, the results are eye-catching. But action pan can't handle anything faster than a cyclist, and the blur can be exaggerated. Long exposure delivers some nice shots of cars going down a roundabout, but doesn't offer enough controls for experienced photographers. Finally, while speech enhancement mode does muffle some ambient noise in videos shot with the front camera, my voice wasn't all that much clearer than without the mode on. So right now I'm shooting selfie video with speech enhancement off, and we have traffic noise playing over on there. Right now I have the speech enhancement mode on, and you can hear the difference. You can hear my voice, but maybe a bit less of the background noise. Despite Tensor being Google's first mobile chip, its performance is surprisingly good. I barely noticed a difference between the Pixel 6 and Apple and Samsung's latest flagships. With 2 ARM X1 Prime cores, 2 big cores, and 4 little high-efficiency cores, Tensor's architecture is similar to Qualcomm's high-end Snapdragon 888. But not only does Google have 1 more X1 core than Qualcomm, it also offers a TPU, or Tensor Processing Unit, designed to significantly improve AI tasks, which it did. I had to abandon our battery test to go to a shoot because the Pixel 6 Pro was taking forever to die. After 16.5 hours, the battery was still at 11%, which is already an hour longer than the Galaxy S21. If you're choosing between the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, your decision ultimately boils down to price, since they're more similar in size than before. In exchange for $300 in savings, you just lose the telephoto camera and 120Hz screen, which not everyone needs. Whichever version you're considering, the Pixel 6 series is a superb return to form. Google is clearly aware that its strengths lay in smart software and excellent photography, and those are the areas where the Pixel 6s deliver most. The company also didn't neglect basics like battery life and display, and though I wish the sensor was faster, there's little to complain about. Best of all, Google is offering you all these flagship features for hundreds less than the competition. For more in-depth reviews on iPhones, Samsung's Galaxy flagships, OnePlus, mid-range phones, and more in the world of consumer technology, make sure you subscribe to Engadget. And as always, thank you for watching.